Hey guys, I'm here with Liam from Cancer Bats and Karina from High Tension. How's it going, guys?
Going good.
It's going good, thank you.
Stoked.
Awesome. And you've just played a couple of shows. You're touring together at the moment, or High Tension supporting Cancer Bats.
Yeah.
You've done a couple of shows in Adelaide and Melbourne. How have they gone so far?
Gone good so far. Last night was sold out. It was packed in the little Bendigo Hotel. It was awesome.
Which really good.
Yeah, I think hometown show for you guys.
Yeah.
Which is rad.
It was very steamy. Liam came off the stage and went straight to the merch desk.
I was dripping.
Dripped his sweat all over our merch. So
Yeah.
just a little extra something.
Yeah, if you buy High Tension merch on the rest of the tour, it probably has
DNA.
most of my sweat. I even stole one of their shirts. That's how bad I am for business.
He
them.
needed that.
I think they can charge more for the shirts now. They've got
I
your
think
DNA.
so. Yeah. They're covered in Liam's gross
Like
sweat.
literally dripping. I picked up a t-shirt to sell and it was like had a dollop of sweat on it. It was
And you're
good.
like,
Fantastic. Awesome. Now, you guys recently supported Cosmic Psychos as well, High Tension.
Yeah.
Yeah, so how was that? And you've also done Big Sound recently too. So busy times?
Yeah, it's busy, but not too busy. We can still relax, and we just like to play shows with people that we like. That's really how you do it.
I'll take that as like a roundabout compliment.
Nice one.
Totally.
Awesome. Now, I want to discuss video clips for both of your bands at the moment. Probably my favourite track off your latest album would be Satellites, the opening
cool.
track. It's really cool, and the video clip for it is awesome as well.
Oh, cheers.
Heaps of the fireworks, and also firing fireworks at Mike while he's
Yeah.
playing the drums. So what was that like? What was his reaction to when you decided that's going to be the clip?
The idea?
Yeah.
Well, we had talked about like doing a video where maybe we like set his drum kit on fire or something like that. And then when I was like kind of coming up with the idea with the guys like working on the video, we're like, oh, instead of us having like just like a Roman candle fight, like as like you kind of do when you're kids, we're like, it'd be funny if we were like, as like the camera kind of figures out what's going on, like we're just shooting them at Mike. And like,
Oh, Mike.
well, because obviously
He
like,
had a
Starting to
helmet.
play drums.
yeah, so I was like, I think that would be super funny to just be like, this is what we're doing. So I didn't tell him until like it was pretty close to like shooting, and I was like, you know how we said like we'll light your drum kit on fire and you like play it? And I was like, our idea is to maybe shoot Roman candles at you, but I was like, we'll like put you in like, you know, like motorcycle gear so you don't get burnt. And he was just like, yeah, let's do it. And it's funny because as we were shooting it, we realized like how, you know, like little he was getting hurt. Like it was just like cranking it up. Like it was just like, oh, everyone's just blasting him so hard.
So what was his reaction after filming that?
He was stoked. I mean, I think once he realized he was in this like leather suit that like nothing could penetrate, it was like, oh yeah, shoot them at my face.
Just
like,
invincible.
Yeah, exactly. He was like really pumped.
Nice. And also with High Tension, the video clip for Bully as well, which has come out, which is kind of like a female equivalent of Fight Club. What was it like putting that together?
That was a really incredible day. I think I was quite anxious about doing an all-female cast because I think my biggest concern was any sort of misinterpretation of fetishizing the idea of, you know, like girls fighting together.
Hot chicks fighting.
Yeah, and it was just like, it kind of started off with the list of like, we don't want it to be interpreted as these factors, which you have to be so sensitive about, I think. But we wanted it to be really tough, and I think like the idea sort of came from, I think that's probably like our most instinctual songs where, I don't know, it's quite primitive, like the beat, and I don't know, when I listen to it, I'm just like, oh, I just want to get in a fight, you know? But I think the most surreal aspect of shooting that clip was, imagine, like for me, like it was like an experience of going to my first hardcore show and just going, what the fuck? Like, you know, really dangerous and like, but really positive and I don't know, you feel like really great. Yeah. But imagine that with only female energy, and it was like a bit hard to describe really, because obviously my only experience of going to hardcore shows is just, you know, trying to fight in the cock forest.
Yeah, it's pretty like 80-20
But
when
and
it comes
it's
to
it's not it's not a criticism, but it's like that's just how it is, and that's cool. I still enjoy going to hardcore shows, obviously, but I'd never experienced that energy like in the pit with like 30, 40 screaming girls. Even the like frequency was different. It was a bit of an experience. I think that was definitely a highlight, and we had these really badass Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and Muay Thai fighters, and it was one of the fighters were like, I just kept getting kicked in the vag, like it was really fun. And
we know her pain.
but it was cool because it was the first time where I was surrounded by like only. There was the dudes in the band, and then there was like the guy doing the camera and the art department. Like other than that, it was all girls. And when you get a room of girls together, they, everyone was contributing. They all had incredible ideas. It was really cool. It was a real sisterhood. I reckon we all got our periods the same time as well after that.
Did the same thing happen with the video clip for Satellites?
Did we all?
Yeah,
sync up.
Yeah, our menstruation synced up that
Synced.
night under the moon. It was great. It was great.
Now you are quite a busy band. I mean, you've been with the band since 2004 when it started.
Yeah. 04, 05.
Yeah, and in that time, 10 years, you've released 5 albums and 7 EPs. So it's quite a lot. Is it just relentless cancer bats for you?
Now we're trying to, balance things out. I think when we first started the band, we were a little bit older, so we knew that we kind of needed to hit the ground running.
Yeah.
And because a lot of our friends were already in pretty established bands, the Alexis on Fire guys, Comeback Kids, Silverstein, all these bands that were around us were already going on tour and doing all this stuff. So we were like, okay, if we're going to start this band, we need to just go on tour immediately, put out a record. And then once you kind of get caught up in that scene, like we already were in with those guys, it was like, okay, you tour and then you take 2 months off, you write a record, and then you go back on tour.
Yeah.
And for us too, at those early times, 2006, 2007, 2008, we didn't have anywhere to live.
Yeah.
So we lived just on tour.
In the van, yeah.
Yeah, so it was just we'll book, we'll play 300 shows in a year because that it means we're only just staying on a friend's couch when we're home and just, keep touring. So now things have changed. We have places to live and we have, wives and girlfriends, reasons to go home. So it's now a little bit tough because there are all those places that obviously we want to come to Australia all the time. We want to go to all over Europe. We want to go to the UK the same way that we always have. But it's but kind of need to balance it out, with still going home and still seeing those
people,
things.
yeah.
Exactly.
Well, being in, you mentioned a lot of the other bands that you sort of toured with. Some cities, I guess some in America, like LA and New York, there's kind of band rivalries. In Toronto, is it sort of helping each other, or is there a bit of rivalry?
That's the thing. There aren't enough bands to be, and maybe it's also just because people are just friendlier. I guess no one's out to get each other. Cause
fuck you play metalcore.
Yeah, or it's we need to be the biggest band in Toronto. You're well, in Canada, it's there aren't enough bands, so there's no one's really copying each other.
Yeah.
I think because there aren't a lot of bands, so it would be so blatant. If somebody came out and sounded like Cancer Bats, you'd be well, there's already Cancer Bats, so you kind of are I'm gonna fill this void. So and no one really is into the copy of the band because they're well, I'll just the one band.
Yeah.
Whereas I understand in LA, there's there's 50 bands that are trying to compete for that spot.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just a different scene where you have to be, kind of a bit more cutthroat. Yeah. Whereas in Canada, it's we're stoked. When there's a new band, especially a heavy band that you could tour with that are taking things seriously, you're sick, we're looking for bands to tour with. Come on tour across Canada with us, or come to Europe with us. And that was the way with Alexis. They were oh, awesome. Come on every tour we're doing. Because, we can't just always tour with Monine.
Yeah.
And so they're now it's Alexis, Monine, and Cancer Bats. Sick. And, that's, kind of how all the touring like kind of happens, I find, in Canada.
Great. And I guess similarly in Melbourne, I've noticed over the last 10 to 15 years, there's been a lot of hardcore, metalcore, a lot of punk bands really coming through. And then there's like Destroy All Lines, who are doing this tour. They've been really prevalent over the past decade, getting a lot of these hardcore gigs happening. How have you found it sort of in Melbourne, being through your band?
It's been good. We've been pretty selective in what we do. But, you know, we like to support good bands. I don't know, I guess we're also not super prolific in terms of touring. Like, when I look at the Cancer Bats Instagram, it's like, fuck, are you guys playing again? Like, doing another tour? I think we approach things a little bit differently in that sense, where we do enjoy touring, but we want it to be really fun, and like, we don't want to be exhausted, and you know, we like to spend as much time as home as well. So
that's the lesson we're like trying to learn from Australian bands.
Yeah, I don't know. I think like the way, like when I had a chat with Matt Weston, who was in Nation Blue, and he wasn't he actually, you know, I was kind of sussing out, would you be interested in, like, let's start a new band together. But when we had our first discussion, it was essentially our goal was to be a band of leisure. Just do like the really good shit, have lots of fun. You know, not like, I mean, we're not super selective, but we are in a sense, because we kind of value, you know, our lives outside of the band, and it makes the band more enjoyable.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
I think when you kind of sometimes make something too much of your job too, like, you're just like, oh, this then doesn't become that fun thing that, like, you get to, you know, take a break from. I mean, we looked like, we all love, and we got to play shows with, like, Violent Soho. And I remember we, at the same time, like in 2009 when we met those dudes, like, they were on tour with the Bronx in Canada, and we jumped on that show because it was like the Toronto show. So we met these dudes that were like similar to us. Like, they were like away from home. They were essentially like living in America, just like touring relentlessly. And then after a certain point, they were like, okay, like, this, you know, it didn't work, or like whatever. And it's the same thing. It's like, for us, we're like, oh, we could tour America, like, till we're blue in the face. And then it's like, but it's not gonna like change anything. So we look at those guys who then came home, like, you know, wrote an amazing record, like, took time out and chilled, and are just like having a blast. And I'm like, that's rad. Like,
so that's a good sort of way to approach things, is because, I mean, as you said, like, Hungry Ghost is a fantastic album, and they seemed a lot more chilled, and now they're doing more shows, and they've got a new album coming out, so
selling out every show as well.
Totally.
That change in approach, is that something that you think you could attribute to I guess, writing?
I think it's important, if you're like doing anything, to have a purpose, you know, like, why do you want to do that show? Well, XYZ. And I think every decision that you make should be considered, like anything really.
Oh yeah.
You know,
But I think that was the biggest thing, like, with this record, like with Searching for Zero, and like kind of the whole idea even behind that record, for us, was like reestablishing those reasons, like, to be like, are we just doing this because this like pays our rent, and is being on tour just like, you know, running away from things, or is it because we actually like love doing this? And so that was why we like took a year and a half off to like get reconnected to those things, and to like have like a real life. And then, like a Violent Soho, or like, you're able to just like enjoy you know, your band, and just be like, I'm doing this because I love playing in this band. I'm writing this music because I love, you know.
And it's so transparent too. It's like those kind of intentions that you have are things that is projected when you're performing, and,
totally,
you know, or like, so if you're just doing it for shits and giggles, or I don't know, for whatever bad reason, it's pretty like transparent, and people are just like, yuck, like, why are you doing it?
Exactly, a good point. Well, we're going to wrap this up, but what have you guys got planned for the next 12 months? Are you going to be doing more writing, or just adding to the list of music? Or?
Yeah, I think we always like have opportunities that come up that we want to take advantage of. So when you get to like, you know, work with different people or have some time. So I think we obviously are going to write another record at some point, but I would love to just like maybe do more EPs, do some like splits.
Nice.
Maybe do a split 7-inch with you guys.
Yeah, let's do it.
Right? Now, but
Cancer Tension or
Yeah.
High Bats.
High Bats. We'll do a stoner record called High Bats.
That
Yeah,
works.
High Bats would be cool.
And then that might lead to cancer tension. Who knows?
Yeah,
Yeah,
who knows?
sometimes when you're too much of a high bat, it leads to cancer tension.
And what about high tension? You got the plan for the next 12 months?
We're excited. We've got Laneway in next year. And we've also started working with a new guitarist who is very talented. Mike Desalans, who's just a rad dude. He recorded a whole bunch of my vocals for Bully. He's a real problem solver.
Right.
Wrote all my vocal bits. No. And I think
Here's my problem. I need to record vocals. I can help you.
Yeah, let's call Mike.
This guy's a real problem.
No, it's pretty incredible how he works. I'll just come to, you know, to tracking and be wasted, or I'll need to get wasted, and then I'll do like a scratch track or whatever, and he can just go, oh yeah, that bit was shit, that bit was really good, let's work on that bit. And I'm like, oh, what would I do without you? But anyway, yeah, so I'm excited to hear what we will sound like with like Mike writing in the band, because he has been in some pretty incredible bands, and he's a really good engineer as well. So I think I think it's just going to be like way more streamlined and efficient with him. And even now, like I think in Adelaide he had like I don't know. He plays with like 3 cabs, and it makes a real difference, because I think guitar is a very important aspect of the sound.
Definitely.
Sonically.
Fantastic. Well, guys, it was great catching up.
Yeah,
all the best for the rest of the tour.
Cheers.
And look forward to more music to come in the future.
Cheers.
High
Thank
bats.
you.
High bats.
High
Stay
bats.
tuned.